Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment. It is our coffee house in the cloud, a place to gather, build community, get centered, and explore this present moment in all its inherent richness. It is July 3rd, 2020, which is not only the birthday of George M. Cohan, who sang of being born on the 4th of July, but also Franz Kafka. Though Kafka was born in what is now the Czech Republic and never visited the United States, even if he did write a book entitled America, one might argue that it is Kafka who exemplifies the spirit of America even more than the overzealously optimistic Cohan. For Kafka had a special knack for recognizing life in all of its thorny uncertainties and absurdities. In a collection of aphorisms published after his death, Kafka wrote, quote, "You can withdraw from the sufferings of the world. That possibility is open to you and accords with your nature, but perhaps that withdrawal is the only suffering you might be able to avoid." A mindful reminder that the human experience can only be experienced in full if we open to all of its facets, its sufferings, its joys, its hopes, and its hardships. Happy birthday, Franz Kafka. I'm John Roberts of Harvard Pilgrim Health Care's mindfulness program, and if I could choose any one person to guide me through the complexities of this human experience, it would be none other than the person pictured beside me, Tara Healey, the founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim's mindfulness program. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. So happy to be here with you.
So in just a moment, I will hand things over to Tara to give us a bit of instruction, which she will then use as a framework for a guided meditation that she will lead us in. Following that, we'll have some time for Q&A before wrapping it all up before 9 a.m. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you will see an option to open up a chat box. Please do use that chat box to type in any questions or comments you might have. We'd love to know what's on your mind. Now, towards those ends, Tara, is there anything that you'd like to ask the folks at home to comment on as we're getting started?
Again, welcome everyone here this morning. And as we are heading into this holiday and, what this holiday means and the backdrop of what we're going through globally, how are you feeling? What is top of mind? What is top of mind this morning?
All right, so while folks type, I just wanted to say a big thanks to everyone for taking the time to be with us, especially as we embark upon this holiday weekend. Now, please note that only Tara and I will be able to see anything that you type, and if we don't read your particular question or comment out loud, please know that we do read and appreciate them all. Before we close, I would point out some other ways that you can keep in touch with us too. So someone says, I'm feeling grateful for some downtime and hoping for sun this weekend. That's great. Somebody says hopeful. Tara, what are your own feelings, if I may ask?
I am, I guess I would say somewhat mixed as I think about our world. There's so much happening in terms of social unrest, racial injustice, and the kind of the freedom that this holiday is representing. And at the same time, I would say I feel more hope for change than I have felt in a long time. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I think of holidays, they're kind of like movies. If you like certain movies you'll watch every few years, and the way that you look at them or the way they speak to you will change. I feel it's the same way with holidays. And I feel a lot of us will be thinking about this so-called birthday of America with a different lens, but one that I think will kind of break open a lot of possibilities about what America can be. Somebody else just says the return to work and dealing with the anxiety of the staff, and that's some real stuff right there.
Yeah,
okay, so Tara, let me turn it over to you to take us away here.
Okay, all right. So this morning, I want to talk a little bit about the object of meditation, what we use to kind of anchor and steady, and another kind of anchor, so to speak, which is open awareness. So in mindfulness meditation, essentially we're improving our attentional capacity, and then we're using that steadiness of mind and concentration to see our habits and our patterns with much greater clarity, but also to see how everything is constantly in flux and changing. So we're settling attention and then using it. So focused attention on, say, the breath sensation helps to settle the mind, and that helps to develop concentration. Without concentration, we get distracted easily and lost in thought. That's why it's really important to have a focus or an anchor. Gil Fronsdal, who's a really wonderful meditation teacher in San Francisco Bay Area, he offers a great analogy. He says, it's like we're in a maze of thought and concern, and we don't realize that we can stand over, look over the top, stand on our tippy toes and look over the top of the maze. And then we get a much broader view of what's happening. So we see sort of a bigger picture, so we're not so contracted around concerns and worries. And the idea is we may not be able to change the problem itself, but through mindfulness supported by concentration, we can shift our perspective and change the way we relate to that particular situation. This is a huge teaching in this practice. It's not that we change the problem, we change how we relate to it. We get a different perspective. So in essence, like concentration brings calm, and a calm mind helps us see and think more clearly. And we develop, as I said earlier, concentration by engaging in a more focused type of meditation, like breath sensation, for example. But to know that breath doesn't have to be the only focus, that when we're doing a more narrow focus like breath sensation, if breath isn't working for you, you could do like the palms touching in that point of contact or the points of contact with the body. You could also use sound, which is, completely fine. So, but we're having a more focused. So what I want to highlight, and then we're going to practice it as well, is receptive or open awareness. That's when we leave the breath or other focused object, and we allow room or space for whatever's going on, and we let it be as it is. So we just open to what's there, and then to the best of our ability, we relax into it. So you open to your experience with a sense of allowance and a willingness to see what's happening and be with whatever is predominating. So thoughts, emotions, body sensations, sound, and then you notice how you're relating to what arises. And the idea is that through acceptance, we settle back into a kind of natural awareness. We let it be. If it's pleasant, we let it be. If it's unpleasant, we let it be. So in a way, this is a common analogy where you are moving from focused awareness to sitting on the bank of a river, and you're watching all the various boats go by. And, you are just receiving and receptive, and you're allowing. And so there is a kind of allowance with this more spacious awareness. So having said that, what we're going to do is I'm going to have us settle our attention just to the degree that we can, using a more focused awareness. And then I'm going to have us actually release that focused awareness object, like if it's breath sensation or if it's another body sensation or sound, we're going to release that. We're actually going to widen the field of awareness, and we become just receptive and open to whatever is arising. And through this, it's one of the deepest teachings in mindfulness meditation, because we're learning about change, that every thought, emotion, and body sensation has a birth, has an existence, and then it transforms or moves. And so ultimately, we're learning about the nature of change. So having said that, let's go ahead and settle in to the seated or standing posture, surrendering your weight into the support of the surface, and allowing the eyes to close if that feels comfortable. And notice how the body feels from the activity of the day so far. So pulsing or vibration, temperature, and just noticing. Perhaps sound in the room that you're in or outside of the room. And begin to bring the awareness inward and notice the natural rhythm of your breath. And there's no need to change it or make it different than it is. Just aware of the body breathing in and body breathing out. See where in the body that sensation is most pronounced. Let your attention land there, tracking the in-breath and the out-breath. Or, of course, if sound is easier for you this morning or another more focused body sensation, that's fine. Noticing where the mind is and returning to the breath. And again, noticing where the mind is and returning to the breath. And when you feel ready, allow breath sensation to release. So release from breath or sound or other body. And see if you can now just open up into this kind of receptive awareness. So you're fully present in the moment and noticing thought, emotion, body sensation. You're open to the experience of thought, of emotion, of body sensation, of sound. If at any time it feels confusing or hard to do, just simply return to your object, your more focused awareness. And you can do that anytime. Noticing where the mind is, releasing thought or memory or planning, just returning to this open, spacious awareness. Noticing where the mind is. And let's go ahead and narrow the focus of attention. So kind of moving from wide angle lens, bringing the awareness back into the body, reconnecting with breath sensation just for a moment, or other body sensation or sound. And as you feel ready, kind of re-engaging with the room that you're in, allowing the eyes to open, reconnecting. One thing that I want to just add here, and this is a story that Joseph Goldstein has told a lot, and he has a couple of different ones that relate to this, but he was in India and he was on a very long bus ride and it was really crowded and crowded with chickens and people, and there was barely any room, and he wound up sitting in the very back, and it was like a 6-hour ride or something. He was in the very, very back. For those of you that have seen Joseph, he's like 6'6", and so he's kind of stuffed into this, and he's vowing to use, to really do focused concentration for the whole, basically the whole trip. He's gonna tune it all out. But it was so overwhelmingly loud that what he realized at some point was that he could release the hold, the constricted hold on the breath, and he was realizing how constricted the hold was, and just open up to the experience. And that made the entire ride more pleasant, because he just opened to the sound and to the scent, the sensory awareness just opened up, which completely shifted his experience. And a similar story is that he was in India and rented a house up in one of the hill stations, and where he was going to have a quiet self-retreat. And just a few thousand feet below him, as it turned out, a Girl Scout troop rented a house, and they were blaring music from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. And he was so upset that it was disturbing his meditation that he was going to write to the mayor and just, have something done. When he really actually realized, in fact, that sound was occurring, and it was more his mind going out to disturb the sound, and that there was a way to settle in with that as his object of meditation. So I leave you with those two stories from the great Joseph Goldstein.
Well, that's great. And actually, Tara, that kind of dovetails with something that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we had our good friend Jackie Johnson in the coffee house here on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And something she was talking about struck me and has stuck with me since then. So that was about how mindfulness practice can help us better take note of the little joys that are all around us. And that in doing so, we can counter the human brain's natural tendency to dwell on real or perceived dangers. Now, being mindful enough to notice all those little joys is difficult enough in my experience. But there's an even more advanced practice, which I think that you're kind of pointing to, which is sometimes referred to as appreciative joy.
Yes.
So I wonder if you could say a word or two about this, about what appreciative joy is and what it means.
Appreciative joy, it's sometimes called sympathetic joy. I actually like appreciative joy a lot. And that's really delighting in the good fortune of others. And in a way, it's kind of an antidote to jealousy or envy. It is, this capacity that when good things happen to other people, that you can delight in that too. So it's not just good things that happen to you, but noticing, people that you know or don't know and their good fortune, and really savoring that for a bit. I would actually even use, Jackie talked about savoring, and there is, this capacity to just hold on to that good feeling. And I would say this is a practice too, that it's all a practice.
I was thinking about the resonance here, because I was thinking about how Joseph maybe at some point thought, well, these Girl Scouts with their music, they sound like they're having a really good time. It's something that I can.
Yeah. He actually in the story he does say nobody else is bothered by this music.
Yeah. I mean, so this is good for me to remember if I'm able to get out to the beach anytime soon, because sometimes, it's like, I prefer to listen to the sound of the ocean, but not everyone, has the same idea. So when I think about this idea of trying to appreciate the successes of others, my mind goes to sports, right? So my family members weren't big watchers of sports when I was growing up. And so I never really developed this trait of being super committed to certain teams and their various successes and failures. Yeah. And so I'd watch sports on TV as a kid, and I could really tune into the artistry of individual players and not feel particularly invested in outcomes. Which felt like a beautiful way to watch the games, right? But then later, when I was in college and started going to some football or basketball games in person, I would find myself immersed in the fanatical enthusiasm that my peers felt for our team, which seemed to be matched only by the bloodlust they felt for the opposing team's failure, right? So here's my question about this. When we find ourselves enveloped in group situations where it seems impossible or even just uncomfortable to express joy for the achievements of other groups, is there a way that mindfulness can help us to counter the pressure to just go along with my group?
Yeah. Wow, it's just such an interesting question, John, because I think, especially, when you're rooting for your team, of course you want the other team to actually lose. And, um, for me, I guess I would say, and there's nothing wrong with having sort of a team spirit, but it's the clarity of seeing what's going on. Are you are you wishing ill will onto the other team? Like, where are you going? Where is your mind taking you? And to, again, what's your intention? And these practices help highlight motivation and intention with much more clarity, and help us align with a skillful habits of action, of mind, of thought, of speech. And to me, it's really about keeping in alignment with our value system. And yeah.
What you're pointing to, I think, is which kind of speaks to me is, the, I guess, joy in another person or group's loss may have a momentary sort of, surge of pleasure, but over the long term, it just kind of, puts your mind into a place of wanting loss for others, which is probably
And is it right? Like, how does it feel when you want loss for others? Like, what's the physical expression? It's usually not good.
So these are maybe, I guess, these are things I'm just going to keep in mind over the weekend here as we enter into, well, actually, one more question, if I may ask, Tara. So,
Yeah.
A lot of us are going to be out and about this weekend, and, we may find ourselves crossing paths with individuals whose idea of social distancing or safe behavior is different from our own. So how do we stop ourselves from judging people whose behavior is not exactly how we would like it to be?
Yeah, no, that's great, John. Especially as we enter this weekend. The bottom line is we can only manage ourselves. I mean, and that's it. That's the only thing we have control over. And there could be a whole variety of reasons someone isn't wearing a mask. We don't know exactly what those reasons are. But the judgment of the person, I mean, I guess you could say, does it help? Does it help? Probably not, and puts you into a mode of anger. And so take care of yourself, and then you're taking care of others.
So a couple things came into the chat box, I guess I want to read. One was actually quite a bit earlier, but I feel America is and always has been an experiment in democracy. I truly hope that we are able to meet this challenge of institutional racism. So I think that's a very inspiring charge for us.
Yes.
And somebody else writes, I always want the Super Bowl to be a close win so the other team feels good about their accomplishment in getting there to begin with. My friends don't always agree. I think that's very nice, right? There's a way in which you can feel like it's like they're all it's feel good about having played well. When I was a kid, I used to say it doesn't matter who wins or loses, it's how you play the game. And we believed that when we were kids, and then you get older and you get the sense that oh, they didn't really mean that when they told that to you. And I think that's too bad, because I think you can still carry that with you.
Yeah. And John, given just the analogy of games and Super Bowls and things, I mean, when your team loses and you see the other team, like the incredible joy, it is possible to have your mirror neurons connecting in with that kind of joy. I mean, it's not your team, but my gosh, there's a lot of people that are really excited and happy and wanted it as much as you did. And so be it.
Yeah, I think we can describe that maybe as an advanced mindfulness practice. It's okay if you don't get it on the first try. All right, so let me wrap this up here. So folks, we'll be back with you every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find the links to these sessions and other resources at our main site at harvardpilgrim.org/mindfulness. If you have questions for Tara or our other experts, send them to askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org and we'll get them answered. Or feel free to leave me a voicemail at 617-509-7047. So you can see what we're up to as well on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com Mind the Moment. And you can always rewatch this session, older sessions, and introductory sessions featuring Tara on our YouTube page. All right, so if you don't mind, I'd like to nudge us towards the exit here with just a final bit of verse from the Spanish poet Antonio Machado, who wrote, "Wanderer, your footsteps are the road and nothing more. Wanderer, there is no road. The road is made by walking. By walking, one makes the road. And upon glancing behind, one sees the path that never will be trod again. Wanderer, there is no road, only wakes upon the sea." So I hope this weekend everyone has a chance to proceed at the speed of the present moment, appreciating what is revealed in each step for yourself and for everyone else, but maybe not appreciating so much that we miss what there is to be appreciated in the next moment with the next step. So Tara, I'm grateful to you for unrolling these moments with us this morning. I didn't prep you for this earlier, but I'm wondering if there's one resource that you might leave us with that you think people would find especially useful as they go forward today and this weekend.
Well, I would say if you're interested in learning more about this kind of open awareness, I didn't say this earlier, but it's always been considered a more advanced practice. But I haven't necessarily thought of it that way. And in fact, I think that even if you're new to practice, if you connect with it and you're interested in it, then try it. And there are other teachers that have been actually changing their mind a little bit about this being, more accessible and available, not just for seasoned or experienced. I think John Kabat-Zinn has written, it might be mindful.org. He might have a piece on open or choiceless awareness. So if you go to mindful.org and put open awareness into that search box, I'm pretty sure he has written a good piece on that. So I would check that out. John is really, his writing is accessible. And Diana Winston, yes, Diana Winston, The Little Book of Awareness. That's a really good one too.
Late breaking comment, very good.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I forgot about her book, and she's a big proponent of this, of open awareness. So, and I am as well. I don't reserve it for people who've been at this for years. So yeah, check her out.
All right, I think that's good for today. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
We will see you soon. Have a momentous day.